All right, so today we're going to be reviewing the 100-page machine learning book by Andriy Burkov. And now for this book review, I'm going to go over a couple things. Now, the first thing being the build plus the aesthetic. This book itself, is it cheap? Is it well made? Does it look nice? Does it feel nice in your hands? The second thing is going to be the content. Now, are the descriptions in this book, are the description of these machine learning models, are the walkthrough of some of the analyses, are the some of the techniques that are outlined in this book, are they clear and are they useful, and who are they for? We're going to go a short excerpt, open up the book, see what's in there, get a description of an analysis in here, and then get an idea of how clear is it? What do the visualizations look like? Is this something you're going to want to invest in? And then last, we're going to go who is it for, as well as my overall rating for this book. Did I like it? Did I not like it? On a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being average, how good is this book? Now, like I mentioned, the first thing we're going to go over is the actual build quality and the aesthetic of this book. Like I mentioned earlier, if you just want the content and want a Kindle version, that's fine, no big deal. But if you're going to actually buy the book, you're going to want to know how it's built. Does it feel good in your hand? What's the weight like? Is it cheaply made? You don't want it falling apart. And so the first thing I'd go over is that it has this like matte black sheen on it. It's like smooth and it feels good to the touch. It's really smooth to rub my finger over. I don't want something that's when I rub my nails on it by accident, it's going to sound like a chalkboard. So it doesn't happen like that. Very good feel to the book. Now the binding, they have two versions of this. They have a hardcover and a soft cover, or soft cover, yeah. This is obviously the soft cover. I prefer the soft cover. I like having it kind of be flimsy like this, because sometimes I find with these books, you're gonna wanna open it up and really get it open. I like it when it lays flat. Now this isn't perfectly flat, but I know if I literally get a little yank on it, it's gonna open up pretty good, and this binding is not going to break or bend or really. If you get a hardcover book, you're gonna wanna be a little more delicate about how you really get into those bindings like that. But for the soft cover, it's pretty solid. Now, the pages inside the book, they're not as smooth as the front cover, but they still feel very, very good. They're very quality. They're made with quality. They feel good to the touch. I want to touch this book. I want to open it up. I want to see what's inside. So overall, the build quality and the aesthetic. Well, actually, let me go over the aesthetic. I like this blue hue, this orange, this yellow. This is going to look good on a coffee table. This is going to look good on a bookshelf. If you look at the binding, it's going to want to make you pick it up and see what's inside. It's going to encourage you to look at what's inside this book, because that's what we want. We want to be able to be encouraged to open it and see what's inside. Now, the content inside the book are these descriptions of these machine learning models good for a practitioner, a beginner? Are they clear? Are they accurate? Well, I can attest to the first thing. They are accurate. These are definitely accurate and very robust descriptions of these machine learning models. Now, here let's get an idea of some of the topics in this book of the contents. We have an introduction, and it goes over what is machine learning. So it goes over the basics. By what is machine learning, we mean, what is supervised learning? What is unsupervised learning? What is semi-supervised learning? What are parameters? What are features? What are output variables? Just obviously the basics of what it means to, or I guess the basics of what goes into machine learning. If we it goes over some of the fundamental algorithms or the classical statistical algorithms, such as linear regression, logistic regression. It goes over the anatomy of a learning algorithm. So what are the components of a machine learning algorithm? Most machine learning algorithms have a few building blocks or components to them. Now this outlines them. It goes over some feature engineering, model performance assessments, neural networks and deep learning, has unsupervised learnings, other forms of learnings, and then a conclusion. Now, again, this content, look at this. This content, we have 10 to 11 chapters of content, all packed within 100-ish pages. I can tell you a few things. One, these descriptions are not end all be all, completely, fleshed out everything you need to know. This is a short book. So if I want to look at principal component analysis, you can see I already have some underlined and I have some notes here. Now, principal component analysis is a dimensionality reduction technique. Now, first, he's going to go over what is dimensionality reduction, when are we going to use it, and what is it good for? Why do we care about dimensionality reduction? We see some figures here. We see figure A, we have the original data that's encoded, or the original data that we're presented with. We have two principal components displayed as vectors, so PC1 and PC2. And then we have the data projected on the first principal component here. So now, and then we go into actual principal component analysis. And so the description we see is principal component analysis, or PCA, is one of the oldest dimensionality reduction methods. The math behind it involves the operation on matrices that I didn't explain in chapter 2, so I leave the math of PCA for your further reading. Here I only provide intuition and illustrate the method on an example. And then it goes into a short example and has a QR code to get a further explanation here. This description of principal component analysis is just short. Again, it's not fleshed out. It's not a full course on linear algebra to go over this technique, but it's a good starting point. Who is this book for in an overall rating? Well, we can get an idea of who this is for. In fact, Andriy Burkov tells us who this book is for. So if we go back to the beginning, we see who this book is for. Now, this book contains only those parts of the vast body of material on machine learning developed since the 1960s that have proven to have a significant practical value. A beginner in machine learning will find in this book just enough details to get a comfortable level of understanding of the field and start asking the right questions. My take on this is that this book is for a beginner, yes, but you have to have obviously some mathematical and statistical foundation. You should understand a very brief very high level understanding of mathematical notation, because although there is a section on notation and definitions, this section is very brief. There's still a lot of jargon in here. So if you haven't had at least one or two, maybe a calculus class, maybe a discrete math class, maybe a linear algebra class, one of those three, this is going to be tough to dive through. You'll get the idea of a scalar and a vector, yes, maybe even a matrix. But when we go into capital pi notation analogous to capital sigma and the capital pi notation, it denotes a product of elements and a collection or attributes of a vector. Well, there's a lot of art jargon in there. Okay, a vector, a collection of attributes, what exactly does that mean? So it's good to have an idea of just a cursory understanding of these notations, and so that you can expand going forward. This book does a very good job at having you start to ask the right questions. For instance, we go to PCA. Obviously, it's just giving you an idea of the intuition of PCA, but the mathematics behind it are not going to be there. Now, maybe some of the limitations, some of the assumptions that go into using the technique PCA, performing PCA, are not going to be in this book. But you get a high level understanding and you figure out where you need to move forward in your understanding of principal component analysis. And that's where I think this book really shines. Now, my overall rating for this book, I would say, is a 7.5. Now, 7.5, again, I'm rating things from 1 to 10. 1 being poor, 10 being phenomenal, nothing better, 5 being average. So 7.5, that's above average. I really do like this book. As you can see, it's used. I have things underlined in here. I have notes in some of the margins. It's been opened. It's been used well, and so I really do like this book as a resource. Now, for pricing, the hardcover version is $50 and the softcover version is $40 on Amazon. Another thing to keep in mind, Andriy Burkov has a read first, buy later model for this book. That means you can go to his website, themlbook.com, and you can download the entire book PDF for free, all the chapters, and you can go through everything for free. And then later, if you found it useful and you want to actually contribute to Andriy, you can buy it or purchase the book later and then get a physical copy. I think that's great. Now, if you have this book, if you've read it, you have it personally, you have the hardcover or this soft cover. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was this review good? Did I miss anything that was worth noting for this book or anything pertaining to this book? Would you recommend it yourself? We want to hear from you. Comment down in the comments below. Let us know. Overall, I really enjoyed it. 7.5 out of 10, $40 on Amazon. Go pick it up.